On this episode of ResiWeek, CES announces their keynote, video on demand streaming fights, and Meridian plus Sonos. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 255, The Perfect Marriage.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Access Networks and by Middle Atlantic. What great systems are built on.
Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek, your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, pleased to be joined by three of my good friends. First, we have Amanda Wildman. She is the co-owner of True Media Home. How you doing, Amanda?
Doing excellent, Matt. We still don't have snow here in Michigan, so that means that I can still keep working my butt off. It's good.
No, I want snow. I am patiently awaiting snow. It showed up and it melted, and yeah.
Snow is great to ski in and everything, not great to pull wire in.
I want to ski. I don't want to pull wire. That's where we seem to differ today. Then we have Mr. Mark Feinberg. He's the president of Home Theater Advisors. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, Matt, how are you? We got our snow in New York, and in great New York fashion, it was beautiful for a couple of hours, and now it's just black muck.
How much do you still have? Do you still have like a foot and a half?
No, I think we only got about 10 to 12 inches, I think, in the city. It's probably good, 4 or 5 still on the ground. It's warm today, so it's melting off today.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And last but certainly not least, going up that storm track, we have Jason Knott, the Chief Content Officer at CE Pro. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing well, and we still have plenty of snow up here, so you're welcome to it.
I can't get across the border, man. I want to come visit, but I can't. It's a problem these days. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is our last newsworthy show of the year, and we're going to kick it off with something about the start of next year. This comes to us from CE Pro, actually. Best Buy CEO Corey Berry is going to keynote the digital CES 2021. If you missed the news, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, CES this year is going to be 100% digital, with more than 100 conference sessions, over 1,000 exhibitors, and a live anchor desk with, I believe, 4 well-known tech faces, if you will. Amanda, I want to start with you on this. Best Buy, I think, is, in any normal year, it would be a weird choice as a keynote. But this year, they were really influential and really led the way in shifting in like 3 days to curbside pickup and all of the things that now are commonplace around the globe for shopping and for obtaining things. They pivoted faster and showed not only leadership, but just foresight that they really haven't had for the last couple of years. So I think it's fantastic that she is going to be keynoting this. What is your takeaway? What do you think that attendees are going to get from her session? Is she going to talk specifically about those transitions, or is she going to sales pitch it?
I think that one, she'll talk about those changes and those pivots and stuff, but also I think that it tells a lot about her, being a female CEO of a tech company. I mean, she's a mom too, so she's really big on multitasking. So I think that that's awesome. And having to pivot, I mean, I think that that's something she's probably well used to, but I also think it's going to be a huge opportunity for her to potentially speak about diversity and inclusion. I know a lot of her conversations and stuff have been around that. So, and I think that we found this year, with people working remotely and working from home, that there's a lot more flexibility, a lot more people are interested in getting involved in our industry. And not only do we have to be flexible with how we do things, but who we do things with. So I think bringing other perspectives, hiring on the people that maybe don't look exactly like us, and bringing new concepts and new ideas. So I'm actually pretty excited about it.
I will note that she is not the only keynote speaker. They are also including Verizon's Hans Vestberg and one of my favorites, General Motors' Mara Berry, as well as Dr. Lisa Su from AMD and Warner Media's Anna Sarnoff. think I said that right. But if you're going to catch anything, definitely catch Corey Berry's keynote as well as Mary Berry. I've heard her speak quite a few times, and she's phenomenal.
So
Jason?
one thing I hope she talks about, and you're talking about how they were able to kind of pivot when the pandemic hit, but it's almost like they had some sort of a crystal ball to know to set up the total tech support program. If everybody knows $199 a year or 17 something a month or whatever the number is, that you get access to a Best Buy tech support person to call if you're having problems with anything in your home. And they have 2.3 million subscribers to that, which adds up to over $9 million. Actually, it's more than that. I'm very terrible at math, but they said the usage increased exponentially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Think about how perfectly timed that was to have that service in place before the pandemic hit. Just, I don't want to call it sheer luck. They're just so smart people over there.
Yeah, very much so.
Remember, she also worked in that whole area, in that whole department. She was promoted up, but one of her areas was working in with the Geek Squad and working within that whole entire area. So
that is how our industry is going. I mean, the whole concept of remote support and charging for it has been preached for years by us and to us. So it's not like it's a new idea. Matt may have had something to do with that.
Yeah, totally. So Mark, let me ask you this. With CES being digital, this is not an event that lots of integrators go to. There are some that go to, but it's usually not at the top of the list that dealers attend because it's digital. How much time should integrators pay to this? Should they devote to this show this year?
I'll be honest, I'm a little excited it's digital because I've never gone because it's I don't know how relevant it is. I've heard it's not super relevant because it's very IoT and DIY and and cell phone cases. And it's very expensive because all the rooms are kind of at rack rate by the time you get to Vegas for this. So I'm excited to be able to log into some of it and really see what CES is as opposed to just kind of hearing about it. I think people like me should give it a shot. If you've never been, it's a great opportunity probably to see at least somewhat of what it is. Judging by how the other virtual shows have gone, it's not going to be a great example, but at least we'll give you a concept of the content, watch a couple of keynotes, whatever. So I think, integrators who have not made it to CES should give it a shot. Give a couple of hours to it at least and listen to a couple of keynotes.
Yeah, for sure. Jason, what does success look like for CES this year? We've seen digital shows come off and be fairly effective, we'll say, with Infocom, with CEDIA, excuse me, with quite a few other shows. What is success going to look like for CES?
Well, for several years now, CES has been driven by two things. One is it is first and foremost a media event. And it's all about, if you look at all of the television programming, all the tech writers, it's about exposing your idea to the general media and the populace. And making it all digital might even expose it to more media who weren't there in the past. So secondly, it's been for I would say the last, at least half a dozen years, an international event. So it's where it was, they have a huge Shenzhen area. It's a lot of international suppliers. I think ISE for the past several years, the success of ISE has eaten into that a little bit. But I think it will be driven by those two things: the number of international attendees, and because that's where a lot of the vendors go to meet their international suppliers, and two, the number of media.
Hey, thanks for watching the first segment of this week's episode. To catch the entire show, please click the link below or visit avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.